Okay, it's me again. Another little review, but this one's going to be a bit different. Instead of me talking about a movie, we're going to talk about, well, audiobooks. Because, well, recently, a writer by the name of Cory Doctorow got his movie put up for production. You know, it was auctioned and whatever, bidded, whatever, to be made into a live-action movie, which is going to be directed by Steven Spielberg and put out this upcoming January to February. They did that after the December because they didn't want to go up against Star Wars. Anyway, and his other book, Little Brother, is also just got put up to become the next, not installment, but the next project to go through the Hollywood system. So I find that very interesting because I like these two books a lot. I have both stories on this phone, actually, along with a couple of others. So the thing is, anything by Cory Doctorow is pretty cool, and Ernest Cline. That's what we're going to be talking about, is the various audiobooks I like. Now, I'm going to abridge the hell out of these because these things are like 2 days worth of audiobook just for one of these things. So it's just, whoa. Okay, so everyone's about to know about Ready Player One and possibly Little Brother, so there's no real point in really getting into those at this moment. The others I want to talk to you about are the ones I've seen that I think really should be put up for bids in the Hollywood system. Now, this has happened before with various other sci-fi books recently, much like Nerve and a couple of others. So this is a process that has been going on before, and I hope will continue again in the future. The first off the top of my head would be Snow Crash. Snow Crash, I can't remember who it was by, but anyway, what it was about was this very, very, I don't know if it's even considered dystopia, honestly. It's the future, and it has like all these freeways, and everything's a franchise. Remember, from the 80s, everyone kept saying, got paranoid about the franchises because the corporations and the franchises, they're gonna take over. Ooh, scary and oppressive and blah, blah, blah. So we're in that future of the franchises take over, not necessarily the corporations. So we have the franchise of Pizza Hut. We have the franchise... Oh, and it's like run by the mafia. These things are run by the mafia. We have church states that are Taco Bell. You know, it's like what? But yeah, it explains itself well and introduces the reader to the world well. So that by the time the action kind of starts, you kind of realize, okay, this is the environment the characters are in. Basically, there's a dozen or so characters, good guys and bad, very memorable. And basically what it is that there's this new virus out there called Snow Crash, and if you see it, it messes with your head virtually, and you can't speak, and after a few days, after mumbling a lot, you die, because you can't do anything for yourself, and your brain just gives out. It's like having a constant seizure. And it completely destroys and corrupts your avatar, so you're basically screwed on both ends. So, yeah, our lead character, I forget the hell his name is. He's like a Bruce Lee type of person. Like, he's really trained, but he's also like addicted to VR. He does a lot of research, and I like the fact he has the library at hand, which is basically a virtual library. And it tells him this epic backstory about Babylon and everything, and he's like researching it and finding the correlations between what's happening now and what's happening then. And then he tells this to a mafia don. This whole backstory takes like 15 to 20 minutes of epic backstory of Babylon, and the mafia guy doesn't even bat an eye at this, doesn't question it. Well, he has questions about it, but he doesn't question the legitimacy of it, just takes it at total face value and says, well, okay, if that's what you were saying happened then, and what's correlating to what's happening now, then I totally believe you. And he just does. That's like the weakest part of the story, but that's the only weakest part of the story. Everything else is really super good. We got a skateboarder, I forget what her name was, but she has this awesome skateboard that has one of these functions that comes in play at the end of the movie, end of the story, which is pretty good. It's all about refugees. I highly recommend it. The concepts it has, it explains it well, so it's believable. You know, it sounds like, yeah, we could totally make that in the next 50 to like 100 years, maybe. I don't know how things come a little bit faster than we tend to expect, and a little bit longer than we expect, apparently. Anyway, because it's how fast we can embrace these things and make them part of everyday life. Apparently, not everything's as fast as the iPhone. Or the touchscreen is what I mean. Anyway, so that's Snow Crash. I recommend it. The next, or the trilogy I have, is called Nexus. Now, this is by Nanan Ramiz or something. Ramiz, I think. He's Indian, I believe. Yeah, he's Indian. Or Middle Eastern, something. I forget. But anyway, this guy, he's really super good. This guy really does his math. He's like Cory Doctorow. He does his homework. His stuff is not up for scrutiny. It explains itself very, very well. His stories are really good. It has a lot of struggle. I went through 3 audiobooks with this guy, of this trilogy. I could not wait to pay the $20 to get the next one, because I'm like, what happens next? It's all about nanites in the brain, called Nexus, and people call it a drug because it goes into the system and then gets washed out again after like 12 hours or whatever. And that's why people keep referring to it as a drug, even though it's not a drug, it's nanites. But people say, how do you keep it in your brain? It says, oh, we just give it a proper, signal, and it stays in your brain. It's like, that's it. That's it. It's like, oh, we government types really don't know what we're doing here. Like we really are in the dark. So after they capture a couple of the leads, they learn a lot about how that stuff works. And then after that, they're just more capable jerks, let's put it that way. So, yeah, government types are dicks in this story. Everybody does stuff they believe is a means to an end, particularly the government people. They are willing to torture children, particularly this one kid who's mentally handicapped, and the kid straight up tells him, he says, like, quit torturing me. I'm not gonna get rid of the Nexus in my head, because that's the only way that you can't get rid of it is to bring up the touch screen in your mind and hit purge. And he says, I'm not gonna do that. I'm mentally handicapped. I'm not stupid. So after about 4 hours of torture on that, they just toss him back into the room. So yeah, they're up to torturing children. And one of the side characters, okay, 2 of the side characters, because they think, oh, we're keeping this handle on the world of, because they're so afraid of new technology such as genetics, such as the Nexus, and such as like a couple of others. So everybody is on lockdown, scrutiny, stranglehold of new technologies. So it's only the back alleys and the partiers are capable of making this stuff, and they're not evil about it. They just want to have a good time and experiment and try to connect. It's all about connecting and the experience thereof. They're not even doing it for profit. They have stuff by they're being backed by MIT and all that. So, of course, unbeknownst to them, they think the government people are thinking, or the university people think they're working on mice, but they're not. I know I'm not giving you a whole lot of information, but there is just so much information. I'm just trying to abridge this as much as possible. Next, after that, is I just highly recommend it. Just go see Nexus, Crooks, and Apex. But by the end, I believe there should be a next installment where the lead characters in this trilogy should be the side characters in the next installment, where where the storylines finally get resolved, because that's how it feels it should be. But anyway, yeah. Next is no, not NPCs. NPCs is okay if you like that. It reads similar to that of the Legend, not the live action with Tom Cruise. The anime, the Legend, something where that skeleton guy finds that his favorite MMORPG is going to be taken offline, so he stands there until the end, and all the kingdom is there before him, his little castle, whatever, and then and when the timer runs out, suddenly he's like, why am I in this real fantasy world that makes no real sense? But suddenly I'm here for whatever reason, and so he kind of goes about it trying to survive in the new world. And so it's like that. It's still pretty good. I recommend it, but it's nothing like anything else that the thing I'm talking about. But it's one of the things I came across I thought would be just worth noting. Let's see. Ooh. Shatter Me. Yes. Shatter Me. Ignite. No. Shatter Me. Ignite Me. And something else. I forget what it's called. But yeah, anyway, this trilogy is pretty good too. It's all about people with superheroes on a semi kind of environmentally damaged world. Earth, of course. Where people have superpowers. And this guy, it's all about the process. It's about this guy who you think in the first book is the straight up villain. You find in part 2, he's not really that much of the villain. He's just a guy doing his best because that's what he was raised to be, is the villain. Then you find out he's just a guy that's been bitch slapped his whole life. Like, no wonder he's an asshole. He's been never shown any kindness by anyone. In the third book, he kind of becomes a bit of not the hero, but he helps the heroes train and stuff. So he becomes one of them, but he doesn't really do anything in the final confrontation. Don't know why. Apparently he's the strongest out of all of them. But anyway, the story centers around this girl who's put in an insane asylum, and she was never allowed to touch anyone, because everyone kept saying, when you touch me, you make bad things happen, you hurt us. So she always has to be kept at a distance. This is a ruler, by their parents saying, this is a yardstick. You stay no closer than that. And so her whole life has been like that up until middle school, and then suddenly she accidentally kills a kid at a grocery store, and then she gets tossed away into the insane asylum for the past 3 years-ish, or 2 years, or whatever, until her high school crush comes in and kind of starts off this whole chain of events where she gets out. She meets the bad guy for the first book. They get away. They find the freedom fighters. That's the main part of the second book. Them understanding the process. Them understanding the bad guy. And then in the third book's where the bad guy helps them. And he turns out he's not so bad. It's like, he fucking shot me and hung me up to die in a factory. How is he not as evil as we think he is? So yeah, there's a bit of that. But yeah, it's really interesting. It doesn't give you exactly everything that you should, particularly in the last one, which I find rather weird. Maybe they're setting it up for another installment. I don't know. So basically, think X-Men, but done really, really well. Next up. Hold on a second. Alright. Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom, also by Cory Doctorow. Now, when I read this, I thought it was a very interesting concept of the story, particularly for the money, like the economics of it, and then I heard it referenced in a couple of other places. Basically, it's like the like button on Facebook and YouTube, where it's in the book. It's called Whoopi. That's what it's called, with a B, Whoopi. And there is no real set value to something, but the more whoopee you get, the more money you have. Basically, what it equates to. So people get whoopee and then they go off and have lunch, basically. And he says that by the end of the thing, when he has low whoopee, it gets like chronically low. Children don't even look at him. Like they see him, they see the thing floating above his head, and it's like, oh, just don't look at him. Like he's very unpopular, which means he's not a very nice person or a very unlikable person. Is basically what that means. But yeah, this takes place, like he thought from the if he gets from the title, in Disneyland, which is where I work, and this guy works at the haunted house, and he's trying to keep the haunted house the same, and it's some 100 years in the future or whatever. And people already took over the Hall of Presidents, redesigned the whole thing so it's all just beams directly into your head, and he says, I don't want that, I want people to get on the ride. But then he gets assassinated, and then during his time out, while he gets reloaded or whatever, someone comes in and then steals the haunted house off underneath him. So there's a lot of back and forth of politics of them trying to say, please, please do not change the ride. And it's also him being a bit of a jerk about various other things, which is rather kind of identifiable, particularly when your lifelong work or long work of a couple of years or how many years is being threatened by the new. And it's a good story. It's not the most dramatic out of all of them. It's very low-key drama based, but I still recommend it as an interesting concept candy to have in your head. I rather like it. There's a similar storyline, I mean in concept, in this one of the episodes of Black Mirror, where everyone has like a like meter on their phone, so they give likes to various different people, and apparently it's not attached to your monetary value directly, but it's hooked up to your popularity. And so this lead character girl wants to buy this new house, and he says if your likability goes to a certain percentage, to 4.0ers or something like that, that it's a 20% discount off the price. But she totally just sets herself up for epic fail like 3 times, so I have no idea why. It's like, okay, don't count your chickens where they're hatched story. That's like common sense, but she was so positive she could pull this whole thing off. But I find it interesting that the brother kept trying to be the voice of truth and reason, saying, I don't know why you're acting like this, or why you're so eager to please to get all these like points and stuff. And it's like, what do you, like, we never see what he does. We see him play games, so he's a game fanatic, and apparently that helps him earn money somehow, because afterwards he's leaving to go live somewhere with somebody else. But it's never stated he has a job or any real sense of income, but I'm guessing he does something with the game to gain monetary income. Of what? I don't fucking know. So there's that. Another one by Cory Doctorow, I just wanted to get out there because it's just so weird. It's called Somebody Leaves Town and Somebody Comes to Town, or something like that. And it's a weird-ass story that takes place in San Francisco about a guy who's lived there. He's just an ordinary guy. He talks to people about internet routers, and then by like chapter 3 or 2 or something like that, some chapters in, suddenly it's, my brother's here, and we're magic. It's like, you're magic? Yes, and then I'll get into my backstory where I say my father was a mountain and my mother was a washing machine. Yes, I'm not kidding. That's his backstory. He lived in a mountain cave, and his mother was a washing machine. She gave birth to them. And he talks about the various different brothers and all this. So it's like, we were just talking science fact-ish about routers and router theory. And then in the next chapter, we're talking about magic. That's just weird. And so this whole thing just starts happening. It gets a little confusing at the end, But it's all in all a very interesting story. That's about it. Rapture of the Nerds. This is an interesting one. They cram a lot of descriptive downs and whatever, like descriptions, into their sentence structure. So it's not just the ball; it's the big blue ball, you know. And just all these descriptive downs really compacted, so you get a lot of description in it, and it's very, very long. It's like it's very, very tiring because your mind is processing so much high-res verbal information into your story as it's going along in your head. And it's about this guy who is in some hundreds of years into the future again, and he's just there. He's a pottery maker. You know, he builds a pottery like in Ghost, you know. And he's old, he's decrepit, and he's just glad with being able to just live out his life however he can, however shitty it is. He's just glad to say, this is my life, I accept it, I like it, and I'm gonna die in the near future. And then through some course of events, he gets chosen to go to India, where he gets kidnapped, has a sex change against his will with nanite ant things. He said that he was made into a slightly younger and semi-attractive girl. He's still saying that the two girls he dated or whatever are still prettier than him or her at this point. Gets first class ride back, or coach or something like that. Gets flown back along and has his little to-go cart mailed back to him or something like that. He gets it back in the end. But anyway, so that little adventure is over with, and then he hears this knock at the door, and he's like, oh great, what now? He goes there, and there's like this big lumbering golem thing at the door, and he says, you have been chosen to go on a jury or something to help represent humanity, so out in space, up at the Ascended. And it's like, no, I don't want to go to Space Florida, basically. Space Virtual Florida, because that's where all the old people go. Excuse me. It's when they get to dying, they have their minds uploaded into the cloud up in space, which is the solar system is basically full of a bunch of I forget what they're called, towers basically. And so she says, this is non-negotiable. And he's all like, oh, I've heard, like he's heard that before. It's like, I've heard that phrase before. Like he's thinking this in his head, and it's like all the time throughout his life, Mom? Is that you? It's like, yep. Grabs him and just takes off with him to the I forget what it's called, but takes him to the place where all the uploads happens, cuts off top of his head, and then uploads his mind. So after that, it gets all trippy and weird, and they actually do make a Matrix reference and slight parody. Then his obsession with Daleks afterwards, that's rather funny. He's like, have your mother humiliate you with your past obsession with Daleks. That's memorable right there. But yeah, it's a good story. I recommend it. That's about it. Alright, got just a few minutes here. Okay, so what's left is basically, well, there's Walk Away, and I guess I'll just end on Walk Away. There's probably tons of it. Just basically look up Cory Doctorow, and you'll find something of very good interest, or the other titles in which I've specified. Walk Away, I haven't read it yet. I only saw the reviews and some of the readings. Basically, it's the Earth it's still hundreds of years in the future, and humanity has mastered tons of technology. One in particular is immortality. So people, the rich, basically, there's basically the divide of the rich people and the poor people. And the rich people have immortality. The poor people have everything else. So the rich people just stay wherever they want. They just want to be. It's like, I want to stay here, I'll stay here. I have the Nexus forever to reign over my little place, and that's it. And the poor are basically nomadic, and they just go wherever. And they build a lot of their technology out of garbage, pretty much, or whatever they can manufacture on their own. And so what happens is that someone gets a hold of the immortality process, and it shares it among the people, and that angers a lot of the rich people, which then try to go on the event on the attack or whatever, go on the alert or whatever about all this. Again, I'm telling you bare bones plot threads because I haven't, read this thing. Uh, Apparently, the poor people live in really good, slightly nomadic type of peace existence, because they're like, whatever, man, just go about my day. So they're very happy. They have quality of life, as opposed to the rich who have quantity of life. I mean, they have a lot of life, but it's very empty. And so the that's all I really know, other than the fact that people have referenced the fact that this book has a lot of sex in it, which I'm looking forward to as soon as I have a spare $20. I'm pretty sure I'll get that in the end of the month. When I go to the expo and all that, I'll have money set aside for myself, and hopefully I'll have enough to warrant purchasing the book on my account, and then I can download the audio and then listen to it while I'm at the convention and stuff. Just that'll pass the time. So yeah, that's basically it. These stories is very, very good. They're totally worth being made into films, because the concepts alone, even though they don't get the story right, like Ready Player One, it's not going to be the same exact story that you're going to see in the movie. One, because of the amount of legal issues for all the references, is just completely impractical, because he made it that way because he said, I'm going to make a story however way I want, and not really intended to be made into a Hollywood movie. Little did he know that later on it'd be picked up as a Hollywood film, so they had to change a few things. So that's understandable. But the others, I don't see that much of a cause, because they don't have that much of a reference. Unless, of course, Disney wants to pick up Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom and then make it a rated R version. Not that they have much of a problem doing that to all of the Pirates films. I mean, really, how long do you want to make this awkward 5 minutes of how many jokes of things are you going to throw? Can you keep going about being a horologist? Oh, dear God. It's like I'm sitting there in my seat like, really? We're really going to do this movie? You're going to strain this out for every minute that it's worth. This is a Disney film. Primarily a Disney film. And it's not a Marvel Disney film. This is a Disney film. And let's throw in all the sex jokes. Let's do this. Let's be awkward. Let's be stupid. And what does Captain Jack do? Not a goddamn thing. Literally, he doesn't really do anything except give away the compass that starts off the whole chain reaction to this whole story. And that's it. He does that out of desperation to get a drink than anything else. He's not smart. He's not clever. He's barely entertaining enough while he's even in the scenes that he's in. And that's it. So, yeah. Disney can totally get, Down Out in the Magic Kingdom and make it semi-adult-ish. And still pull it off fine. Because it has a lot of semi-adult humor and situations in it. Well, the more adult situations and themes rather than any bad jokes are in it. There aren't any real bad jokes in it. It's more just the adult situations. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Alright, so this is June 16th. Still about 14 more days until the con. So I'll see you there unless I come up with another video beforehand. So most likely my next video will be the con. So take care, all you faithful viewers, and remember, a good sci-fi book out there one day might just be a blockbuster hit movie the next. What's to say? Alright, so take care. Until then, my faithful viewers, peace out.